Hi everyone, Teddy Baldassarre with TeddyBaldassarre.com. In this video, we're going to be looking at a watch from Ball Watch Company with the Fireman Nightbreaker. So in this video, we'll do an overview of this timepiece. In addition to that, though, if you have any further questions, check out the link in the description, TeddyBaldassarre.com, full authorized dealer of Ball watches. And also, if you're looking to purchase this watch and have any maybe further questions, you can also book some time with one of our watch specialists and have some of your questions answered. But guys, let's jump into this video and take a closer look at this watch. So to begin here, when looking at Ball Watch Company, this is a brand that has a little bit more of a personal connection to me because the brand and the start of the company can really be traced back to my hometown of Cleveland, Ohio, where on a fateful and tragic day in 1891, a horrific train accident killed 9 railway mail service clerks as a postal train collided with a Toledo Express train just 40 miles outside of the city in a small town of Kipton, Ohio. After an investigation, it was determined that the conductor of the Toledo Express was relying on a watch that was a full 4 minutes off after dropping his watch. The wreck set into motion a series of events that would redefine the American watch industry as it pertained to the railway, and it placed a Cleveland watchmaker at the center of the story. That person, Websy Ball, was a jeweler and a watchmaker who owned a store in Cleveland. With the railroad and the government officials impressed with pocket watches he was producing, they tapped Mr. Ball to become the chief time inspector to create and implement standards for railroad chronometers. Over the course of his career, he was responsible for the accurate timing of 75% of all U.S. railways, and as a result, changed the way railway pocket watches were produced. Fast forwarding to 2021, Ball Watch is no longer operating as a company from the United States, but rather producing their watches in Switzerland and produce some of the best value for money, I would say, tool watches in the category. They do have a lot of their own just design elements that kind of stay true to that railway style design. But today we're going to be looking at the Ball Fireman Nightbreaker. It's a watch that was originally launched in 2017 as a fully customizable piece where you could pick and choose the components to go with the timepiece, but now the collection features a handful of standard options, including this variant we're going to be looking at today. So taking a look at this watch on the wrist, you have a sculpted 40 millimeter diameter case that sits 11.5 millimeters thick, and from a lug to lug measures 48.5 millimeters. The multi-part case construction is a sophisticated combination of subtle flared lugs, sculpted mid-case and bezel, and then also nicely polished surfaces are also found along the sides of the case on either side, as well as in all parts of that sculpted bezel. Along with these polished surfaces, you'll find the fine brush finishing to the interior and back side of the lugs. Between the 20 millimeter lugs sits a thick, soft rubber strap, which tapers to an 18 millimeter brush pin buckle. The buckle has a bit of a unique design with a bone shape to the sides and a cylindrical top side where the Ball name is engraved. The rubber is fairly thick and substantial and does have some softness to it, but it is no question quite bulky when you secure this one to the wrist, so probably would be opting for some different straps when going with this one. Even with the bulky rubber strap, the watch sits nice and flat on the wrist and can slide underneath the cuff without too much worry. A large 7mm screw-down crown is situated at that 3 o'clock position in the case that helps provide the fireman with some nice 100 meters of water resistance when fully screwed in. Unscrewing the crown pops it into the hand-winding position, pulling the crown to the second position to quickly adjust the date, and then at that farthest pulled-out point, you then can adjust the time while having hacking seconds as a feature there to set for perfect precision. With the large crown, you might expect to feel some digging or general discomfort, but the 40mm case size offsets any potential issues with wearability in this case. Transitioning to the flat sapphire crystal treated with anti-reflective coating, it provides a clear, unobstructed view of the dark slate blue dial within. The dial has quite a bit of visual dynamic as both it's textured with a concentric circular grain as well as having radial sunburst effect that really plays beautifully with the light. Now this effect makes it all the way to the large chapter ring that is placed at the edge of the dial and takes up a decent amount of the dial's real estate. Within the chapter ring are the famous tritium tubes which act as hour markers. This dial uses thin stick tubes all the way around which glow yellow with the exception of the 12 o'clock tube which glows in orange. Between the tubes we have a white printed minute track, and as we work our way back to the interior of the dial, we see more white lettering for the Ball logo at the 12 o'clock. More white lettering just beneath the hand stack where automatic is written and the depth rating under that. At the edges of the tritium tubes, more minute tracking can be found as these mark the 5-minute intervals and then positioned just inside the chapter ring at 3 o'clock position with a step date window, giving the dial even further depth, which displays a white disc and easy to read with the contrasting black print. When this model was introduced in 2017, you could order this watch with a Cyclops crystal over the date window for a closer look, but on the current model just has a traditional standard sapphire crystal, and frankly, the date window is perfectly legible without the Cyclops, and I think it looks much better this way. At the center of the dial, you'll find a set of high polished beveled sword hands, which also contain these thin tritium tubes. A red second hand caps off the handset nicely to add pop of color. But really, when it comes to looking at this dial, the thing that is going to pop out the most outside of the texturized surface is the use of tritium. So tritium, in terms of a material, is not going to be something you're going to run into all the time from a contemporary perspective. It was something used quite a bit in the past, but how it is different than that of, say, superluminova is that it is a constant illuminating material. And as that, in fully dark lit environments, it's going to shine with much more consistency and will not fade to the same degree as superluminova will. Also, it doesn't need to be charged, so that constant illumination will last for over 25 years, typically on average. So it's a very reliable material. How it is housed is also very unique and is part of just the design formula that I think Ball has really owned and made their own. But just understand the differences of the material compared to maybe some traditional other illuminating ones out there. Flipping this Fireman over to the back, we find a solid screw down case back decorated with an embossing of a train, which certainly recalls the roots of this brand and ties it to the Cleveland, just Ohio region. While you cannot see the movement on this piece, beneath the case back sits the ball caliber RR1103, which quite frankly is essentially the ETA 2824. Depending on the amount of jewels, you might actually see some Solitas in some of these calibers as well, just given the access to these movements. In addition to the movement though, you are getting some dial and case, just engineered specs in here. With this movement, you're getting a patented anti-shock system, which locks in the rotor into place if the watch encounters some shock, preventing the rotor from damaging any of the other watch movements. This movement is also anti-magnetic to 60 Gauss, which is that entry-level threshold for an ISO anti-magnetic watch. But apart from that, this watch is going to deliver all of the comfortability and familiarity and ease of regulation and service from that of an ETA caliber. It's going to operate at that traditional beat rates of 4 Hertz, 28,800 vibrations per hour. Does feature hacking and hand winding hacking, stopping the second hand when you pull out the crown to the farthest position, and does have a power reserve of 38 hours. All right, so now to look at this Ball watch timepiece. In terms of Ball as a brand, they're a bit more eccentric and different, but once you understand the history behind this brand and the design style, I think for those that are going to appreciate it, they will appreciate it and what this just watch is going for and what this brand is going for. In terms of how this package is delivered, Ball from a brand standpoint isn't going to be as well known as some other watches out there, but if you're looking for a tool watch, this is going to be one of the better, I would say, opportunities to get into this range from a Swiss-made timepiece that also has its own design DNA that is exclusively going to be theirs. The strap that comes with this piece leaves a lot to be desired. It is rather thick, so I definitely opt for something different. But the design, in terms of what it's going for, it's a little bit more funky. It has a lot of things happening with the tritium and kind of that concentric texturized surface at the central dial point. But the finishing is quite good when it comes to the case, but especially with that dial, it does really pop quite a bit. Movement is reliable. 38-hour power reserve is probably the only downside that you're going to have there, but that is pretty straightforward when you're dealing with these ETA-based calibers. That considered, Ball is making some adjustments to this movement to add some added utility in terms of what it's going for and probably staying in line with the roots of this brand. But in terms of what this watch is going for and who it is for, I would say it's for somebody that is a tool watch enthusiast or wants just a no-nonsense watch at this around $1,000, $1,500 price range from a brand that stands on its own in terms of its design and approach, while also being nice in its wearing dimensions and offering something a bit different than what you're going to typically find on somebody's wrist. All right, guys, well, thank you again so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Really would appreciate that. It does help out the channel. Also, if you're in the market for this watch, link in the description down below to the website. We're a full authorized dealer of all the brands we carry, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, full factory warranty for all the products as well. So if anything goes wrong, you're completely covered and don't have to pay the bill for it. Also, we offer price match. So if you see one of our watches at another authorized dealer for cheaper, you just let us know by filling out the price match request form. And finally, 9 out of every $10 that we generate from this content goes right back into the content we're creating on our main channel as well as here. So guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.